Welcome back to the Heart AF podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Van Buskirk. On today's episode, I open up about how difficult it can be to release control and trust a higher power when fear feels overwhelming. I share a deeply personal season in our lives when our oldest daughter was facing intense mental health challenges and how everything finally shifted when we stopped trying to control the outcome and began leaning into faith and surrender. As a parent, it can be very difficult knowing when to step in and help your child or to lean back and let them take the lead. My daughter taught me how sometimes the best thing we can do is to fully trust and have faith. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Chelsea Van Buskirk with the Heart AF podcast. I wanted to share a very personal story with you because it's got a great message and it was another huge lesson for myself to learn. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people might be able to relate to, and I want to tread carefully with this story because it does involve one of my children. And it's a personal story. And I'm not going to share everything about her story, but I'll just share some of the overarching facts about what we had to deal with because I know that I'm not the only parent that's had to deal with this. I actually had one of my daughter's former friends' mothers reach out to me because she ended up going through the same thing with her daughter that I went through with mine. And she expressed how alone she felt because while she was going through it, it was something she felt like she couldn't even tell her own family. And I totally understood where she was coming from because we felt the same exact way. You know, sometimes we go through these things and they are very private, right? They're private and they're intimate. And so you are kind of silenced almost. And it's so painful to be alone in that suffering, in that pain, and not knowing what to do and not knowing who to talk to or who to trust because you don't want your trust betrayed or for things to go out of hand where your dirty laundry is getting aired out to just everyone and anyone, right? I know even within our own families, we might have certain family members that we just don't want to give all details to about certain things because we don't know what they're going to do with that information or how they might judge us or shame us when we already might feel some shame ourselves. So it's hard to find those people that we can really feel like we can be truly vulnerable and open up with about certain things we might be struggling with to get the support that we need. It's hard to find that community. And so, I've said before, a part of what I'm trying to create here is a safe community where you have that, where you can feel safe, where it's not maybe your friends and your neighbors that you might not want knowing everything. It's a safe community where it's kind of strangers who can hold that space for you and hold your privacy. And a lot of times in groups you can even post anonymously and still be able to get that support. So I think that's a really cool feature that Facebook allows you to do with Facebook groups. And so that's why I'm trying to get back to creating this community to create this safe space so people can feel like they have a community to open up about some of these things that might be too vulnerable, too intimate, or, out of fear of maybe hurting themselves or just, having the wrong ears hear what they have to say, right? I think everyone deserves that support and that safe space to, feel like they have their privacy guarded and there's those boundaries there. And so I'm trying to create something that has those standards and that support and that privacy without things getting aired out where they don't belong, to have a safe space for that. And so I have two daughters and a son. And when my oldest was kind of coming into her teenage years, we started seeing a drastic change in a lot of her behaviors. Like she used to be very happy and outgoing. And, certain things I started to notice a shift in her. I didn't know if it was just puberty or the fact that my dad had passed away. And that was her first real great loss that she's experienced in her life. She was the first grandchild. So my dad obviously doted on her a lot. And, you know, they were pretty close. And so that was her first big loss. So I felt like there was a shift after that. And I felt like we were still kind of okay. Like she was still, happy, but we just started to see her gradually decline. And, seventh grade was kind of that year where we saw just a huge change. Like you could see it in her schoolwork, just the types of friends that she was surrounding herself with. And then she started getting into trouble. We started getting calls and there was a lot of things going on. And so, of course, as a parent, your kind of instinct is to just like be very strict and harsh and like the punishment and like here's the consequences for these actions, right? Like we kept going over like, okay, if you do this, this is the consequence, and really just like going into like consequences of certain choices you're making. And it kind of all bubbled up to a head when we finally discovered that she was doing a lot of self-harm. And it got bad enough to where, we had a scary situation where we thought we were going to lose her. And that's a very scary situation to be in as a parent because you see a lot of times like teen suicides are on the rise. It's something that does in fact happen. Like we've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it in your school communities. We've seen it in our own school communities, like in these young middle schools. We're talking, you know, 11 to 13-year-olds that end their lives because they think it's that bad, you know? And for them, it does feel that bad, right? And as adults, we can see that this is a small little window of their life, right? Like they have so much more life to live outside of this tiny few years. But for them, like it's their whole world and it can be very devastating. And so, there is a lot of mental health stuff. And of course, with social media and the bullying and all these things, and just no matter when you went to middle school, like that puberty part, I mean, it's tough. Like you're in an awkward stage when your body with your hormones, friends start being more selective. Like, in elementary school, it's kind of like everybody's friends with everybody. And then all of a sudden, now there's a lot of mean girl stuff. There's a lot of gossiping. There's rumors. It gets really bad really quick. And so we found ourselves in a situation where we ended up having to pull our daughter out of school. And she was out of school for, I want to say 8 to 12 weeks. I can't remember exactly, but she missed a good chunk, like almost a whole full semester of school with just all the things that we just felt like it was not the best environment. So we put her in another place. And it was really hard because, there was a part where we knew that she was struggling and she was very resistant to where we were making her go. And she hated it and she didn't want to be there. And I think the first place we took her to, she did enjoy, but then it was time for her to graduate to this other kind of hybrid place that she just hated. She didn't like the people that she was around. She hated it. She just wanted to get out, and we were just very resistant to put her back into her school because we didn't want her to fall back into some of these old patterns or for her to go back into some of these things. We had a lot of people that were helping her, professionals that were kind of working with her and that were working with us to help her, right? Like it was all about her. Like, as parents, you're terrified because you just want to protect your children, you want to help them, and you would do anything to make life better for them. And at the same time, as a parent, you also realize like you can't control your child's environment in every possible way, right? Like there's a lot you cannot control, and there's a lot that like your child is going to have to learn to deal with on their own, right? Like you can't fix their problems for them. That's part of growing up is they have to learn how to fix their own problems, right? Like they have to learn how to cope themselves and do things themselves. And it's really hard because a lot of parents these days, I feel like in our kind of generation, is a lot of us grew up with no support or, absent parents, or we've had a lot of like issues. So we want to be the parent that's there for our children. But sometimes we do it like we go overboard, right? Like we're doing too much for them. We're doing so much for them that we're actually now hurting them in another way where now they're not learning how to do things for themselves and they're not able to function fully independently from their parents, right? And so it's kind of this constant like battle of seeing like how can I be a good support person, a place of love and a foundation for them to come back to and know that I'm here to support them, and also helping them learn how to support themselves too, right? Like giving them that kind of ability to start taking care of themselves in a lot of ways, or being able to learn how to cope and try to like handle things themselves, right? Like I obviously she's still a child and I'm here to help her, but also I'm not here to like live her life for her, right? Like I'm not here to do that. But in this situation, it's like you feel like you have to have some kind of control. Like we have to fix this, like we have to help her. And so we did everything we can. Like we try to, kind of prevent who she was talking to and just trying to like do all these things, like trying to put so much control. Like we took away all of her communication with her friends, which, she kept asking for that back. Like that was one of the privileges that she had lost. And she really wanted that the social media back and being able to contact her friends. But we had her go no contact. Like it was only for a long time she could text and communicate with her family, and she still had access to her music, so we knew how important music was to her. And so when we were getting kind of at the tail end of this 8 to 12 week period, I could see that she was now like it's like she kind of understood the seriousness of the road she was going down as far as like harming herself and like the choices she was making at school. Like she was ready to like it was like I could feel that she understood that she should make better choices, and also how dangerous and scary some of these choices that she might make, like how final some of these choices might be, right? Like the seriousness and how when it's over in that regard, right? Like we want her to know that there's way more out there than this moment right here, and to not do anything that could really just end it all. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be like so blunt, but I just, I don't want to get too far into it because it's very hard. I've known lots of people that have lost children in that way. And so, anyway, we were happy to be able to get her some help. And I could see that she was kind of coming around to some of these realizations, but it was very hard to know when to kind of give her that freedom back. And this is what I really want to talk about because it seemed to be more of a power struggle. The more we try to control and restrict her, it was like the worse her well-being was. Like I could see like it was like she was clearly unhappy and struggling before we like had taken her out of school, but now it was like she was almost worse in a lot of ways. Like you could just tell, like I've never seen her that way. And it was really hard to watch her kind of just disappear with being here. Like she was still here, but she was not there. And it was like her light inside her was just so dim, so, so dim. So it was like taking her out and giving her this help that we wanted to give her and provide for her because we did not want to lose her, right? Like we were so scared. We were trying to control out of fear. We were scared of losing our daughter. So we were trying to do everything in our power to control the situation and, try to prevent that from happening. But at the same time, like I said, her light was kind of going out even more by us like being so restrictive and so controlling and like making her do some of these things. And so I remember talking to her, like at the second place she was at, we were talking about this transitionary period about bringing her back into school, and she was like very adamant. She's like, these private conversations I'm having with your daughter, like I feel like she just needs the opportunity to show you. And I was kind of starting to think the same things. It's like we need to start treating her like she's keeps messing up, right? Like we need to give her that opportunity to show us we can trust her again. We need to let her have that freedom. Like we need to release her into the wild, so to speak, and just see what happens. Because it's kind of like you think about when you push the bird out of the nest, right? Like they may struggle a little bit, but eventually they learn how to fly, right? Or like when you see like the animals that give birth and like they're like falling on the floor and it takes them a while to stand up on their feet and to get walking, right? Like there's always that little struggle, but that they can do it. And so you got to let them figure it out. Like you can't carry them their whole life, right? Like you can't keep them in the nest. And so it was kind of like we needed to let her free and let her show us and see what she could do. And if she did make a bad choice again, then we could deliver that with a consequence. But until she shows us, we need to let her prove to us that has, made some changes. She's learned some new coping strategies, like she's learning to do things differently. And so it was extremely hard because as a parent, again, you're so terrified. What if I make the wrong decision? What if it's too soon? What what if this is just a game? Like she's just manipulating me and she's just going to go back and, we might lose her. She's going to keep going into trouble. She's going to start using substances, like she's going to get addictions, like we don't know. You start creating all these stories of like the worst possible scenarios of what could happen, right? So it's very hard to have that faith and that trust and to surrender that and let her do the thing. And something magical happened when we finally did decide to just see what happens. Like it was a very hard choice, but me and my husband sat together. We agreed. We're like, let's just see what happens. Okay. Like we just, held on to our faith and trust that like she's got this. And sure enough, she showed us. She finished the school year with decent grades. She got her contacts back the next school year. She made honor roll, but it's like she was turning that around. Like she was actually doing things. All of a sudden, it's like we saw her come alive again. Like slowly and surely, it was like, oh my gosh, there's our daughter. She's back. And I'm so grateful. Like I can't tell you, it was so hard seeing her disappear like that. And seeing her bounce back has been the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And just the way that she's now interacting with the family again and she's present and she hangs out with us again and she spends time with us. And you can tell like she definitely turned a corner and she is still growing and learning, but she's a freshman in high school this year, and just seeing her blossom and try hard. And of course she still struggles and like she still, is a teenager and has little teenager tantrums, but it's all like just it's amazing. It's fun. Like we're going to start teaching her how to drive and all these things. And it's just like, it's so beautiful. And I'm just so happy. That was such a challenging time. And it was so hard to know what choice we were making was correct. And, I am glad we did pull her out for a minute. And I think, we did give her some things like some tools and some help that she needed at that time. But sometimes I look back and I wish we would have given her that opportunity sooner, like, and not had kept her so long. But either way, it was that moment of surrender and trust. That moment that we let her go out on her own was when all these positive changes started to happen. And I started to realize recently how often that's the same story in a lot of other situations in our lives. Like I think about um, even, I'm going to get into more details about this in later episodes about the things I've gone through in my marriage. But even in other things, like when you're trying to control a situation because you're scared, right? Control usually comes out of fear. We want to know the outcome, like we want to keep ourselves safe. So we try to control as much as possible. And when we have such a tight grip, trying to like force and do something that we think the right thing is, or whatever we think we want or need, or we think that thing's going to keep us safe, like we hold on tightly to whatever, like you lose your grip, like you're like it creates resistance and it makes things hard and it repels. So if you think about like, let's just, because I brought this up relationship. So when you're trying to control the other person or you're trying to like make them fit this box and make them be who you think they should be, like that's going to repel them and they are going to back away and not want to be around you. Think about your friends and even like your kids, right? Like if you're controlling them, trying to be the person you think they should be instead of letting them be who they really are and loving them for who they are, like they're going to be resistant. Like there's going to be this rejection, right? It's like magnets when it's like the two positives coming at each other, like, right, they repel instead of being attracted to each other. And so it's the same thing, like, when you're trying to force a certain outcome, when you're trying to force it and you're attached so tightly, trying to control to get a specific outcome, that's usually when you meet the most resistance and that outcome does not come, right? Like sometimes you can force an outcome to happen, but then it ends up backfiring in some way. It's not the exact way you wanted, right? So the beauty of it is if you can learn to relax and let go, surrender and have trust that the outcome is going to be whatever it will be. Like you might still have this desired outcome or the things you want. It may not look exactly the way you thought it should, but the actual outcome that feels good and that is meant for you in the best like way possible, like the best outcome possible, is always going to happen as long as you can release and accept and be open to it, right? Like it's having that trust, like that everything's going to be okay, right? We all have choices. And so I'm not saying like, oh, if you find your kid in trouble, like you just let them figure it out on their own. No, like as a parent, you're there to support and help them. You help guide them. You provide assistance when they need it. But you also don't need to hold so tightly and control everything. Like you have to like loosen up a little bit and let them fail forward, like you give them the guidance, you give them the help they need, and then you let them, you see what they can do with that, right? I'm going to give you another example of this because this is just really beautiful. I taught my son how to draw a star and it was like such a proud moment because he actually like he remembered, but he really wanted to draw a star. He couldn't figure it out. And so I made little 5 dots and I did the numbers and I said, you do 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 5 back down to that one. And so we practiced a few times and a couple times it was a little rough. And then later that day he like did it. He's like, look, mom, I did it. I did the numbers like without the dots. He just did it like freehand and he finally got it. I'm like, this is so cool that he learned that. But it was like, you teach them how to do something, or you share a piece of knowledge, or you give them that advice and that support, and then you let them try it on their own. And yeah, they might mess up a few times, but they're gonna get it, right? Like they're gonna figure it out. And think about the drawing of the star. Like no one star probably looks identical, right? Like we all draw stars a little different. So he's gonna find his own little way of making his stars, but like he's doing it, right? Like he's getting the star. So that's kind of a cute little analogy that just came to me right there. They might not do it exactly right or exactly how you do it, but you give them the lesson and they go out and they figure out how to do it that's in the best way for them. So anyway, that was a lot. That was a big story. And, it was a really painful time in our household and it was very hard. And the whole family had to kind of go through and watch as our daughter went through some of these things. And it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And I go back thinking about too, one of the other moms that had reached out to me. It's like, she just called me and she's just crying. It's like, because it puts this strain on your marriage and your relationship. And you feel like you can't really tell like grandparents and stuff because you don't want them freaking out. And then there's all this shame and guilt as a parent, like, this is my fault. Like, what did I do to cause them this? And sometimes it's like, it's not. Like, I remember sitting there talking to my daughter, like wondering, like, what is so hard for you? Like, I don't understand. You have a two-parent household. Like, we're both here. Like, we're both present. We're available. Like, why? Like, what are you struggling with that's so hard, And it's like you compare. I'm like, I didn't have, my mom was a freaking addict and she was in and out of my life, disappointing me, breaking my heart over and over and over again. My dad was in a wheelchair. Like, I had nobody that was really there to like take care of me. I had to be the responsible one in my household. Like, you have all this freedom. You have all these things. There's like not really much you have to struggle with in your household. Like, how are you struggling so bad, But at the same time, it's like, that's not fair for me to say. I don't know what those internal struggles that she's having or what her experience is. Like, she lost, we had two dogs when she was younger that she was very attached to that we had to put down when she was younger. She saw my aunt die from cancer, who she was really close to. Like, my aunt was like her grandmother. Like, that was like a mother to me. So she actually has had a lot of loss in her young life. So it's like, I fail to realize, like, even though she might have a stable home, there's still pain that she's experienced. And I don't know what's going on at school. You don't know all the bullying and the things that are going on. And there were some things she experienced that were really difficult for her in school. It's like I find out all these other things. It's like there's things that she really internalized, and there were friendship breakups that were really painful, and girls are mean. And so it's like she did have struggle. It was not fair for me to say, like, just because she has her two parents here and she has a stable home, that she should just have no struggle or bad painful experiences at all. Like, that was so unfair. But for me, like when I was first in, I'm like, I don't know, I don't get it. Another layer to that is just also realizing that you never know what somebody's going through privately, right? Like you don't know. Like you can see stuff on the outside and think their life is amazing and not know all the internal stuff that's going on inside. Like every person you see day to day in the grocery store who might be having a bad day, who looks grumpy or who is an asshole to you, you don't know what they're struggling with inside. You don't know if they just lost a family member, if they're going through a divorce, they just lost their job, like they just lost a kid. You don't know. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? Like last year was like the worst year of my life. Like 2024 was like that was when we were dealing with all this stuff with my daughter. Our marriage was in a huge repair. Like it was very traumatic. Like all the stuff with my son was coming. I mean, it was just all these things that were going on, like a lot of family drama that was going on and just all this heartache, all this chaos that was going on the inside. But like on the outside world, it looked awesome because we are doing all these different business stuff and we've got all this other stuff going on the outside, but in the inside, it was such a struggle, but it was all for lessons and growth. And I can say that now, like I've made it through most of it. And I know that life will continue to bring me challenges and there'll still be painful moments. But it's like each time you go through something, and like I talked about in the first episode back about like excavating the wounds, right? Like we have these deep internal wounds that usually start in childhood and they will keep coming up. And then we get to heal another layer of it. So it's like each time we go through an experience that kind of brings up some of that stuff, it's like we heal another layer of it. Our awareness grows. The next times it comes around, we don't spend so much time wallowing in it, right? Like we are better equipped to move through it and to understand it and to like name it what it is and move on. And that's kind of the process is you're learning, you're pulling out, like digging deep, like, why did this thing impact me so much? Why is this so painful? And seeing, it was that moment from this that I still have feelings about. And it's like you are able to figure it out and you say it out loud, like, this is why I'm feeling this way. This happened to me. I feel this way about it. And then you're like, okay, all right, I said what I need to say. I felt what I needed to felt, and now I can move on, right? And now I don't have to carry it with me. I can know there is like happiness and joy outside of this. There's a way through this pain that's there, right? So this whole experience and what I really the main point I wanted to share with this episode was sometimes we get really caught up in wanting to control things because we're scared. And sometimes the best thing we can do is to let go and surrender and have faith, right? Calling on God, calling on whoever, universe, whatever you want to call it, calling on that higher power, knowing that they've got what's best, right? Putting your faith in that, putting your faith in other people, like letting them, giving them the opportunity to show up and show you, right? Instead of judging them or trying to control them or tell them what to do, like in the instance with like a child, right? Like I said, you guide them, you teach them, and then you let them go and show you what they can do. And again, when they mess up, when they make a choice, they face the consequence. And that's how they're going to continue to learn, right? We all learn that way. We make a choice, we face the consequence, and we learn what we want and what we don't want. So I don't even know if I finished talking about this. I kind of started going off on a tangent, but one of the things I started to talk about how that friend was talking to me about going through this, it's like you feel like you can't talk to anybody about a situation like this. And so just having one other person in my small community come to me saying how she's struggling with her child going through something like this, like the mental health, like the self-harm, like those kinds of things, um, know that you're not alone. So if you're a parent and you've dealt with this before, I want you to know you're not alone. It's really hard to be a teenager and to grow up right now. I mean, it's always been hard to be a teenager growing up, but I just feel like at this day and age with the technology and the instant communication and everything in your face, like it's a little bit harder. So just know that you're not alone. And that you're not a bad parent if your kid is struggling or going through something. And there's so many support groups and support systems that are out there for you, so you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. And if you're someone who has found yourself in this situation and you want to talk to me privately about it, or you want to vent or ask more questions and more details about what we experienced or what we did or the things, that we did for our daughter, I'm happy to answer those questions. You can send me an email or a DM through social media if you'd like to connect more on this topic, or if you want to talk more about it and want some more support, and I can help provide you some resources or things that, we use for resources as well, just to help you in that. And then, like I said, I've got that Facebook group open again. And so we'll start using that too as a safe community. If you feel comfortable being in a community and wanting to open up about certain things there and having some support in the Facebook group, you're welcome to, post things anonymously. Like that's an option for you. So that's kind of nice too. If you feel like you don't want your name shown on the group, you can still have group support and feedback, and no one will know your name associated with what you're maybe wanting to open up or share about. So that's an option as well. So sorry, that was heavy. That was a lot of stuff. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I wanted to share was if you're a parent, you've ever found yourself in that specific situation, you're not alone. And that learning to surrender and let go and have that trust and come back to love instead of fear will help get you further. Allowing things instead of forcing always feels better, right? When you let things come and flow, everything feels so much better versus like trying to grip so tightly and force things to happen, right? It usually feels yucky. So that's usually how you know if you're in alignment or not. Is it feels yucky and tight, then it's probably you're forcing and it's not in alignment. But if it feels good and relaxed, then you're good. You're letting go, you're surrendering, and you're in alignment, you're connected, and things seem to flow a lot better in that space. So sorry, I feel like that was so much, so much, so much, so much. And thank you for letting me have this space to share and be vulnerable and share some of these intimate things that we've dealt with. I kind of went back and forth on whether or not to share some of that, but I felt like I really needed to because I know that there's other people out there that struggle and there's a lot of shame and judgment that we're scared to open up about some of these things. But this is a safe space and I am speaking in a public way for those that need to hear it. And so I hope that that gave you some kind of support and some kind of helpful insights and me sharing that story with you guys today. I hope you guys take care and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Peace. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today on the Heart AF podcast. If this episode inspired you, share it with a friend who could use a little hope right now. And don't forget to leave a rating and review. Not only does it mean the world to me, but it also helps others find the show. Plus, every month I'll be choosing a review at random to win a $100 Amazon gift card. So make sure you screenshot yours and send it to me on Instagram at chelsea.vanbuskirk. I can't wait to be back with you next week. Until then, keep choosing love, keep choosing hope, and let's live Heart AF.